Pokémon Yellow for the Nintendo Entertainment System? Why yes, this game does in fact exist. And of course it's a bootleg, but since Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee are coming out later this year, and those are kind of sort of remakes of Pokemon Yellow, why not take a look at a game that's a full-on demake of Pokemon Yellow that also makes its own fair share of changes to the game. So, on today's video, we're going to be deciding if Pokemon Yellow for the NES is worth your time. But also, right before we get into things, I'd like to let you know about our sponsor, Viceroy Kicks. This is the achievement brand for gamers, and this new Kickstarter offers a wonderful new line of shoes for gamers, along with the ability to earn real-life video game achievements. Link to the Kickstarter in the description below, and stay tuned to the end of the video to learn more about them. But for now, let's get into today's review. Welcome to Stuff We Play, home of everything weird and retro, and if that sounds cool to you, why not subscribe? And yes, today we're talking about Pokemon Yellow, Special Pikachu Edition. But much like the Pikachu I'm holding in my hands, the game today we're talking about is a bootleg. And also I don't have a physical means of showing it to you, so just kind of imagine that this can fit inside an NES. You know, it's always strange whenever we delve into the world of bootlegs like this. While yes, most bootlegs are absolutely terrible, I've looked at some of those. Man, Samari the Adventurer comes to mind. There's also some that are just way better than they have any right to be. Of course, I'm talking about your likes of Final Fantasy VII for the NES, Chrono Trigger for the NES. This is another case of that. Pokemon Yellow for the NES, a complete demake of the original game. As this is a Chinese bootleg, this game, of course, was originally released in Chinese. But thanks to one incredible hacker, we can now play this game in English. Along with that, it had some bugs and whatnot beforehand. Those have been fixed up. In fact, the only thing that seems really off here off the bat is the music. For some weird reason, most of the music here is demade versions of music from Pokemon Gold and Silver. Most notably, the battle music is all the Team Rocket battle theme from Gold and Silver. And while it's good, in Gold and Silver anyways, it's weirdly tinny here and also just feels out of place for a game that's supposed to be a demake of a first generation Pokemon game. That's not to say it's a bad soundtrack, it's perfectly fine, it's just that they could have done a hell of a lot better, much like they did with the graphics. Seriously, this game looks fantastic. It seems less like they tried to demake Yellow version graphically speaking, and more like they tried to demake FireRed and LeafGreen versions on the Game Boy Advance. It actually looks really good, and it's really surprising that this is being pulled off by an NES. I love how this looks. Granted, there are a few graphical glitches, but I'm not sure if those are a cause of the translation or the original game, and really and truly, it looks fantastic by the standards of NES games. But one thing that is rather weird is how battles appear. Battles do occur here much like they did in the standard Pokemon Yellow version, mainly either by locking eyes with a trainer or by going into tall grass and initiating a wild battle. I mean, battles themselves work perfectly fine. In fact, it feels much like if you were playing FireRed or LeafGreen just without abilities, but attacks seem to have really wonky animations, and some don't even have animations at all. It's odd, but at the very least, it's better than I expected. But you know what? Isn't it weird that we're already talking about battles? How's the game like in general? What's the gameplay like? Well, I'm not really going to go into the story of Pokemon Yellow because that's completely intact here. And way back, like 2 years ago, wow, I should remake that video, my buddy Colin and I actually did a full retrospective on the first generation of Pokemon. We've already covered it way in depth. This game is Pokemon Yellow through and through as far as story and map goes, but not as far as overworld maps go, if that makes sense. While yes, you still go to all the locales in the Kanto region, from Pallet Town all the way to the Indigo Plateau, all the overworld maps themselves have been changed. What's weird is some towns have tall grass in them and have fairly rare Pokemon in them. Though Kanto itself features all the places that were present in Pokemon Yellow originally, many routes are almost recognizable from their original versions, and some towns have strange additions. For example, in the regular Pokemon Yellow, Pewter City Gym is on the left side of the city, while on this one, it's on the right side of the city. Trying to leave the city before going to gym though will still lead to a trainer stopping you and forcing you to go fight Brock. And people say that Pokemon games only recently started holding your hand. All in all though, what is Pokemon Yellow for NES like? Well, it's everything you'd want from a demake of Pokemon Yellow, or rather a remake of Pokemon Yellow. While it's mostly word for word the original game if we aren't talking about overworld maps, while the soundtrack could be better, and while I think that could have had some additional stuff to make it even better, because of the additional content that is there and because all of the maps have been changed making it like a redux version of the Kanto region, I think it's a very effective remake of Pokémon Yellow. Not in the same style as say Pokémon Let's Go, but more in the same way that Pokémon FireRed and LeafGreen treated the original Pokémon Red and Green, except, there's no Sevi Islands here. While I can't speak for the original Chinese version as well, I just could not find a working version of that game, this translated version is definitely worth your time, and it's honestly really impressive to see it running on the NES. Sure, the original Pokémon Yellow was on the Game Boy, which is technically weaker than the NES, but this is a full-on remake. It uses graphics that looks like FireRed and LeafGreen, and you know what? It's great. You should try this game, and I'm glad I got to play it because I had a ton of fun here. But you know what? I maybe begin to ramble on just a bit. If you want to hear me talk about more obscure Nintendo 8-bit goodness, why don't check out some of my other videos, such as one where I talked about All Night Nippon Super Mario Bros., a Mario game that was left in Japan and based off a radio show. But I'd also like to thank Viceroy Kicks for sponsoring this video again before I end off. This is an awesome new shoe Kickstarter for this achievement brand for gamers, as gaming is something that has recently earned a reputation as something that has nothing but a negative influence. But as we all know, for the most part, the opposite is true. This is what Viceroy believes as well, and as such they are offering real-life gaming achievements. One of their tiers of shoes is the competitive tier, which requires to get them, for example, to be ranked in the top 15% of an online competitive game. This is a fantastic Kickstarter that I implore all of you to go check out, because really it's awesome stuff they're doing there, and if you feel so inclined, why not back them on Kickstarter? But you know what, while you're there, why don't you also subscribe to Stuff We Play for more great content like this, and let me know what weird and retro games I should look at in the future. So with that, thank you very much for watching, stay classy, and I'll see you next time.